Welcome to Choppin It Up. I'm Crunk Chocolate, and I am here with my show bro, Tom Bomb. How's it going, Tom Bomb?
Doing great. Doing great.
Hey. If you are watching right now, please hit the thumbs up. Leave a comment. If you're watching in real time, please light up those chats. Let us know your thoughts. Add to the show. I created Chopping It Up, honestly, to be messy, dig into conversations, and be an antagonist as some of the real questions, ask some of the real questions, Jared. I wanted to start with Manchester City because that way there's no way to call me biased because, I started with the club I support. But now the next episode, when I bring on a Liverpool fan, do prepare for me to bring the mess to them about Klopp leaving and everything crumbling. But for tonight, I have a wonderful guest for you that I can press about Pep leaving and everything crumbling. If you have a problem with Manchester City's players' ratings, he's the man to add. He writes for words for City Xtra. And if you call yourself a cinephile, you need to check out After School Cinema Club. Shady Gang, give it up for our friend, the most dope, Dillon Meehan. How's it going, friend? How's it going?
Thank you. As always, if there's any City players whose ratings in FIFA/EAFC that you don't like, I do not have final say. I just give my thoughts, and producers say yes or no. So I'm responsible for all the good ratings and have nothing to do with the bad ratings.
I just, I gotta give a nice, fun, interesting intro. I feel like that's kind of become our brand.
You came knives out. Like you weren't playing around. You weren't playing around with when you said like. Because like I made this shit to be messy and like bam, like mess like within like 4 minutes. Like that is impressive.
Immediate, baby. You got to get those intrigue people to be wanting to stay. Hi, people. So please stay. Give your chats. Let us know what you're doing, what you're up to. Actually, before we get into the football, though, I would like to hear a little bit about After School Cinema Club. Would you want to plug that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So it started with me and a couple of my friends / coworkers here in LA. I'm a writer. One of the hosts is a actor. The other host is a director. So basically, the gist is a writer and actor director walk into a bar. Basically, it was us. The conversations we'd already have, either at work or outside of work about film. We try to have it be in a funny way. It's weird to say I'm funny. I don't know if that's how like you explain things, but we try to have it be lighthearted. It gets serious sometimes, but there's the natural chemistry there just from us knowing each other. So we talk about news, like casting or stuff that gets announced. If there's any controversies, we review movies. So we've got like a few episodes out. We have another 2 episodes recorded. They're meant to come out every week. We're just kind of started. Anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can check it out. I would love it. All of our socials and stuff are in the show notes. It's just called After School Cinema Club. Thanks for plugging it. I appreciate it.
Hey, of course, I'm here to support. All right, let's get into the football though. The thing I have heard consistently and annoyingly is Manchester City are missing a Gundogan type of player. Manchester City are in their 6th straight FA Cup semis, which has never been done before, attempting to win 4 Premier League titles in a row, a quadruple, which has never been done before. Finally, on their way to win back-to-back Champions Leagues. Yes, Real Madrid did it 6 years ago, but the club before to experience that success was Nottingham Forest 50 years ago. Yes, as a fan base, we should be thankful and appreciative that the club sits at a threshold of football immortality. Once again, not going to lie, if City only takes 1 of 3 that's kind of a giant disappointment in it. City had brought in like for likes, yes, Gundo for Kovacic and Nunes. There's Laporte, Vardiball, Mahrez, Daku, KDB with a massive injury, Haaland with his own troubles. Grealish can't get on the pitch. Plus, there's Daku, Nunes, and Kovacic, who themselves can't really get consistent playing time. Have to mention all of football media wanting Liverpool to win it one more time for Norbert. Is it no Gundo, Laporte, Mahrez, no problem? Or is it problems?
It's a little problems. I don't think it's a little binary. I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, hey, we don't have them and that's the reason why. I mean, I think Gundogan's obviously the biggest miss of the three. Mahrez at times was absolutely amazing, scored so many important goals. At times could be sometimes a little inconsistent. And it kind of felt, especially in the last year, he did bring a lot of control and helped kind of control matches, but it felt like he wasn't that same player where, like, you know, the winter Mahrez that we think about maybe from like 2-3 years ago, where it felt like he was carrying us. I mean, Gundogan, you know, I don't know about his ability as a captain. I mean, he gets a lot of credit because we won a treble, but his ability to score late goals was vital. You know, the goal against United in the FA Cup, even though that was super early, like his late runs in were super important. And I love Kovacic as a player, but he's just not the same type of player. He doesn't have that goal scoring knack. I mean, I think like Gundogan has scored more goals in 1 year at City than like Kovacic has like as a like club player. They're just different types of players. And so Foden can score more, you know, like we're seeing Bernardo score more, like, so like other players are stepping up. But I feel like it's not necessarily a transition year because we only lost like 2 or 3 players, but it's one of those things of the squad's still definitely good enough to win, but there's a world where City aren't going to win any trophy this year, which is weird to think, but I'd be upset, but it's totally possible. Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to happen. But you think about it, we've yet to beat Chelsea this year. We're going down to London in a congested part of the season. You know, there's Real Madrid, who I'm actually not as worried about the Real Madrid tie personally. It's not like, oh my God, it's, you know, what an easy fixture. It's not the team that I would have preferred City to draw. But they've played 6 times now under Pep. We've pretty much comfortably been the best team in all 6 games, except for 5 minutes of madness and, you know, the second leg in the Bernabeu, and it cost the tie. But it's weirdly, that's not what I'm necessarily as concerned about. And then in the league, frustratingly, it's just not in our hands. We have to rely on Liverpool and Arsenal to drop points. We play Arsenal, you know, in 2 weeks, but Liverpool at times have been super inconsistent. At times they've looked incredible, and it's just that we can't control it now. Sorry.
That's okay. That's a lot to process for a second. But like I've like long posited that one of the reasons that this season that it seems like something is missing is that like Pep is trying to force KDB and like Foden, or Foden and Alvarez, or KDB and Alvarez to play in the midfield together without giving Rodri a lot of cover. Where do you fall on that?
I really haven't loved Alvarez in midfield. He can be very productive in midfield. When you think about it, like how often where he'll, you know, have an absolutely unbelievable goal, whether it's just from distance or it's you know, from a free kick. He's an amazing striker. He's not a good attacking midfielder, in my opinion. And I don't know if it's because Pep doesn't want him to go to Real Madrid, and so he's just going to play him because Real Madrid, you know, might need a striker, although it seems like Mbappe is going to go there. It hasn't worked as much for me. I think Phil has clearly been, amazing when played centrally, but we saw what it looked like when Alvarez was played on the wing. It was a disaster, and so I wrote about it in my piece for City Xtra after the Liverpool game. Pep has talked at what feels like ad nauseum that Alvarez can't play on the wing.
Oh, you muted. Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. Only to play Alvarez on the wing in arguably the most important game of the season, and it was a disaster and potentially cost City the game. I thought City looked 10 times better when Stoku was out on the wing. So it's been tricky because KDB's been injured for times, Haaland's been injured for times. The team just hasn't been able to be healthy for most of the season. And I think it's even honestly a credit that we're this close.
Okay. Well, let's stay in the whole Champions League realm of everything because it's looking really tough, to be honest, and having to go through Real and possibly Bayern again, or Arsenal, whoever it'll end up being in the final. If Manchester City can win back to back versus this murderer's row of clubs, all questions and hards of Pep's legacy at Manchester City are eviscerated. Losers basically just clinging on to 115 charges. Is the experience of the senior players of this club enough to carry City to another Champions League title?
Potentially. I mean, most of the players, that won it, that were on the field, that day, are still there. It's just Gundo's not there and Mahrez is not there. That's basically the main thing. And Grealish is a huge question mark. We don't know if he's going to be healthy. But experience-wise, they know what it's like because they were so nervous. They were so nervous that game. I remember how bad, City looked on that game and just being stressed at noon in LA because it's time difference wise. I'm just my day is just starting, and I remember looking at how poor they looked in the final. But I think so. I think that the fact that they have both the away legs, we know how good City are, and at the Etihad in Europe, it's 30 some odd games they've gone unbeaten. It's a huge benefit. It just, for me, it comes down to health. I don't think it meant if they don't win, I don't think it makes a mark on Pep's time at City, whether they win or don't win. If they win if they win it back to back, it's unbelievable. It's another crowning moment. I think the treble in and of itself put everything up in a little bow. If you have anything to say after the treble, I don't really understand what the point is. What about y'all? I don't know. I feel like I'm getting all the questions.
Yeah, I've been Tom Baum. What are your thoughts on everything?
I mean, I think I said it on the episode that we recorded this week. I won't be disappointed if we get knocked out of the Champions League as long as we win the league. Now, in retrospect, if we flame out against Real Madrid in the quarters, and that I'll be very disappointed. But I don't know, it doesn't to me the league is the most important thing. Champions League is a really nice dessert, but I don't know, the league is that filet mignon. So and
bread and butter.
Yes, exactly. I would rather have that.
Okay, and I hear you, but my people I talk to and the rumblings inside is yes, Premier League is great, England is fantastic, but Champions League though, being able to travel the entire world and show off all of your trophies with the Champions League, and that does so much more for the brand, at least now, because I guess they've done what they've been able to do. They're established as an English giant with all of the top six now. It's a top six now. Also, what can they do to the grand scheme, the world scheme of football? And winning Champions League does that. They still have so much to do. Pep last season called the team a teenager. You can't be a teenager last year, and now all of a sudden you're a whole adult. So they're still in that youth stage, and they're building, they're growing, and I don't know which one I would rather win. I guess I would say Premier League because of the fact that it hasn't been done before, and I want to be able to smash every one of SAF's records that we can, so we can be like, who? What?
Yes.
That's old history. What? Why are you holding on to old things?
Okay, that just makes my point. That's the most important thing. Like if Charlie was on with us right now, like Charlie is like, as a North Carolina fan, he will tell you that he is more happy that he ended Coach K's career in the Final Four than win the national championship. Like they did something that was more monumental in that you like crushed something that your rival had. So like in order to crush something that your rival had, to me, is more important than like how you are perceived globally, especially since that rival did something like they are like lauded and applauded for the quote unquote globalization of the game in so many ways. Like I don't like beating them at their own game, I think, is more important to me than Champions League. Like yes, Champions League is cool, like, but I would rather like be the team that won the Premier League 4 years running, like, and saying that, like, just like you said, SAF never did that.
Yeah,
it's really hard. It's like it's the most privileged problem to have as like a soccer fan,
1,000%.
of be like,
1,000%.
God, is it
1,000%.
better if we win the league, or is it better if we win the Champions League? And I agree that in my core, I do think it's the league. I think that, you know, the bragging rights within England, I think, matters. I think being the biggest team in England matters, and I think it has far bigger implications from like a youth recruitment standpoint. You know, the broadcasting money standpoint, like that really really matters. Whereas, like, you know, when Real Madrid, when you think about it, they were losing leagues to Barcelona year after year after year, and like just kind of, I don't want to say stumbling into Champions League wins, because that's disingenuous, but they would not be consistent in the league. But you can win a knockout tournament with moments of brilliance. And that's what Real Madrid would do time and time again. And it's not that to discredit Real Madrid. It was just they weren't necessarily consistently dominant for years, but it was an experienced squad, and they knew when to show up when it mattered. And so in that kind of way, I would rather win the league titles. But like if City lose the league title, they still played amazing, but for whatever reason, whether it's injuries, you know, another team just wins a crazy amount of goals, and City are dominant in the Champions League, win the Champions League, then I'd love it. But the league, I think overall, I'd rather have. But I also feel like us as City fans, ever since Liverpool won the Champions League first, I feel like we have wanted to say that the league is more important. Also, it's like one of those things of like, we want to say the league title is more important because that's what we have, and that's what we won. And I don't necessarily think that's the only reason why, but it definitely it's a piece of that pie.
Well, don't you just think objectively, like the league season is a more like a more determinative evaluation of what your squad is versus like a knockout tournament like Champions League. So like I to that point, I think, like, I mean, like, you know, I know that in WOSO circles, like Casey Stoney has taken a lot of heat here in America for saying, like, no, we won the league because San Diego Wave won the NWSL Shield, but like they played Gotham, who won the playoffs. So like I think that might just be a distinctly like you know, American concept of like, oh, like the playoff might be more important, but it seems like to the club as a whole and like fans that have been there since Main Road, it seems like the league is more important, and like not just like, and even before like Liverpool was winning Champions League, the league was always more important.
Yeah, I feel like most teams would pick the league. I think Liverpool is actually one of the few that would, because they've won the Champions League so much, you know, or granted they also haven't won the league, and I mean they won one league in like 30 some odd years, but you know, I think for them it's a thing of I think most clubs would pick the league. Yeah.
Well, let's stay at the league with the league, because it is a 3-horse race right now. I've been hating on Arsenal, not wanting to acknowledge their existence in this title race this entire season. And last episode, Sharpie and my other show bros, they sat me down and they're like, no, you cannot ignore them anymore. And I hate that they're correct, so I will follow suit. But City can leapfrog them with a win, but if Liverpool or Arsenal don't drop points, what really can Man City do? City with a draw to Liverpool, Nathan Ake giving away 2 points. The title's not up to Manchester City, so it's how do we as fans handle just watching? Like, I know we've won time and time before, but this just isn't a great position to be in.
Yeah, part of me almost I'm more zen about it, almost in a way of like, I hated the run-ins when City were ahead. I think my logic is backwards. I think the players and I think most fans would prefer to be ahead, and like the onus is on the other team to like, you know, keep up. But for me, I would always be terrified because Liverpool would have these ridiculous last minute comebacks, and it felt like, at least for me, that we were always just like barely hanging on to get wins or to like carry through, and like we could not get rid of Liverpool. Whereas now that we're behind, it's like, well, it's out of our hands. We can't control it. All we have to do is win. We win, and I guess it's the same thing. If we win all of our games and they don't, we're good. And I guess it's like at that point, it means it's the same both ways. But for me, it's almost zen in a way of like, all City have to do is win their games. The only game that's truly, truly difficult, Tottenham away, especially if it ends up having to get pushed back and be the second to last game of the season, that's brutal. That is like true nightmare stuff. I'm also weirdly calm about the Arsenal fixture. They've never played. I don't think Arteta has ever beaten Pep in the league at the Etihad. And I think the only time that he's ever beaten Pep in the league was just this past year when it bounced off Akanji's face in the last minute of the game. You know, I think they've gotten a couple FA Cup wins like during Project Restart when fans weren't in the stadium, but they fall apart. They fall apart in this time of year, and I'm going to think that they fall apart until they prove me wrong. And then once they do it, you know, hats off to them. But it's been 3 or 4 years in a row now where late March, you know, April comes around and they completely fall apart.
And they've been doing it for much longer than that. Am I right? And that's half the reason why I don't want to acknowledge them. It's just like, bro, you gotta like snatch it from us in order for me to be like, all right, guys, you're here now, or maybe get second this season, especially with Klopp leaving. And speaking of Klopp leaving, let's look at our own situation. The idea of Pep leaving, he is still leaving up in the air. We obviously have time with him contractually. He basically has said over and over again, once we get 3 to 6 months before, maybe that's when I'll start talking about things and we'll figure out what we're doing from there. If Pep leaves, yes, Manchester City have won and done all these things, but is it just the Pep effect? Is Manchester City the destination we would love to believe that it is? Can we get any manager?
I don't know about any manager, but it would immediately become, the top job. I think that, and it also depends if Cheeky leaves, and that can be a whole other thing. Like if if Cheeky leaves, if Soriano leaves, that's honestly to me almost a doomsday scenario, especially if all three leave at the same time.
1,000%.
But I think that any manager would love the idea of being able, from a squad standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from a academy standpoint, there's no reason to not take the Manchester City job. But do y'all watch college football?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like Saban, if anyone here doesn't watch college football, Nick Saban was the coach of Alabama, one of the best college coaches, if not the greatest college coach of all time, abruptly retires, this year, and they could not find a replacement. They had to get the Washington coach, who's a good coach, rising up the ranks, but like that's a thing where and Bama players are transferring left and right, and now Bama are looking to no longer be this powerhouse, which they have been for the last 15 years. I don't know if that happens. I don't know if Pep leaves, if like everything falls apart, but Pep might not be publicly saying anything. He needs to be letting like Cheeky and Soriano know how he's leaning. I get not telling the players. I get not telling the fans. And maybe he really is just going to be wrestling it, but like it can't be a thing of 3 months before the season ends. No one knows what's going to happen. Just from like a running of the club standpoint, that's terrifying. Only for if he leaves, because I really do, in my heart of hearts, feel this way, and I've never wavered from this. This is the best it will ever be, comfortably. It's never going to be this. Maybe 20 years from now when there's a new Pep or something, but the consistency and the sustained dominance is him. City will win titles. City will win trophies. Hell, they could win a Champions League. Like all of those. It's not that I think that the club will never be good again, but this type of dominance is because of him. And I am terrified for when he leaves. I'm sorry.
Can't even think about that. Like my brain imagining is trying to think, hey, what it would be like to win just like maybe a trophy a year, and it's just like nothing. Like it's just white noise. So
Because I think like do you think that like we would still be able to have some level of dominance as long as Soriano and Cheeky are still in place with a new manager?
I like to think so. I like to think that I'd have to imagine that like they have like a file of just like Pep gets hit by a bus. Like what do we do? Like they like something happens, and I'm sure they have names. I'm 100 times more confident if Cheeky and Soriano stay, or especially Cheeky. Soriano, I could care less. I don't care about CFG. I honestly kind of don't like CFG and would just prefer City to just be City. But like
over here, we shout out Bahia and all those people.
I respect that. If the sister clubs are fans of the club, I salute you. It has nothing to do. Like I don't dislike y'all. The idea of it overall, I'm just not a fan of. Soriano in place, I trust it that he will at least make a well-informed decision. But it's the drop off to any other manager. It's going to be crazy, and none of us are prepared for it. And that's my thing. Like, I'm just like, none of us are going to have that. None of us are going to remember what that's like for when Pellegrini was here, or, like, it's just, it's.
Why do you? He can do better than Pellegrini.
Well, my blood pressure just went up with you hearing you say that name.
And I'm only saying that in a way of just like, look, when Pellegrini came in, he took Real Madrid to the most points they'd ever had.
Yeah.
Ever. And it's one of those things of just like, you think you can make the best decision, and it's just there's so many unknowns with it, and that's the only thing that I've been like hammering this for like a year or two now on Twitter about it, because it's just like, appreciate this, appreciate it, like relish these moments, never forget these moments, because it's just an unknown. It's not that I think it's terrifying. It's anxiety.
Let me rewind a little bit. Who's on Dillon Meehan's "if Pup got hit by a bus tomorrow" list file?
This is
I don't know if I
just
have
in.
anyone.
Dillon
You said be
Meehan has
Crunk,
to get hit by a
Crunk,
bus.
you said be messy, so I'm gonna be.
I think if the list of people, I mean Arteta is one of them.
Okay.
I don't think he would leave Arsenal. Maybe he would. I think it would be shocking. I'm a huge fan of Luis Enrique at PSG. I don't think it was great at Spain. I think Spain at times were a disaster. He's the only other guy to win a Champions League with Messi. No other Barcelona manager was able to figure that out while they were there. I like Ange. Still a little bit of an unknown. I like De Zerbi, but Brighton have also been defensively a disaster. But it's also, he doesn't. So there's like all of those kind of names, and I doubt. I mean, he said he wouldn't do it again. I would take Klopp. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I would. He would never do it. But like, I can't be at City. Absolutely, I would take Jurgen Klopp. It would never happen. He would never leave Liverpool. But how many other managers would you say, like, if you could wave a magic wand and bring him in?
Okay, Dylan, I wasn't expecting this, but I am all the way to fucking let's go.
We thought we were being messy, Crunk, and Dylan just blew us out of the water.
Look at Dylan, man, raising my blood pressure. I love it though. It is going to be interesting, but let's look at the summer with transfers. Lots of names in the air for possible Man City gets in the summer. I'll name a few, but there's plenty more. I'm sure everyone has their own particular name. I'm going to name my favorites first, though. Musiala, João Neves, Wirtz, Frimpong, Paqueta, Bruno G, and Kimmich. Shout out to you, Sharpie. Which of these players are maybe one on your own personal radar fits into City style football the best?
I haven't watched Neves a ton. I've seen some clips on Twitter. He seems really good, but like I don't watch enough Portuguese, league to really have an understanding. Although whenever we sign Portuguese players, things work out pretty well. So there's that. Musiala, I mentally don't want to entertain it. It just seems too good to be true. I think he's absolutely unbelievable. Like absolutely unbelievable. Would absolutely love to have him. It's confusing because like we already have so many players in that mold in a way, and I do worry for Phil a little bit if he comes in.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of the other names. Kimmich is another one of, if he were to come, I don't love signing like a 28, 29-year-old, 30-year-old midfielder. But Rodri needs someone. He needs someone. And the idea of being able to either swap either one of them out, play both of them together, like them as a pivot would be unbelievable. And the idea of like kind of almost having Kimmich, like at times he could be the right back that then steps up. He can do the John Stones role, the Rico Lewis role, whatever you want to call it. I think that's fantastic. I wrote in my latest City Xtra piece after the Newcastle game that City need an attacking right back, especially if they're going to play this lineup where they're bringing Phil in, they're bringing Bernardo in, and you're basically sticking Kyle all the way on the right. I am a Kyle Walker defender, not personal life wise, but on the field wise, and. Like when he's out there like his instruction is it's spacing like in basketball. It's just someone out in the corner to that like kick the three out to, but he can't shoot. So it's just a thing of like we kick it out there, even though he can't really provide that attacking output, but he's just there to create space. And if Frimpong wants to come back to City, and I don't know what that relationship was like when he left, he spent like a decade in the City Academy. So if he does want to come back, that's amazing. I think he would be fantastic. I just don't know. I don't watch enough Leverkusen to know what his defensive abilities are like. You know, he has the pace, but, you know, can he fill that Walker role? Because Walker is kind of one of the, I mean, he's the unsung hero of this era. His pace has been vital for stopping counterattacks. And Frimpong potentially could bring that. He's younger. He's just not as he's not as big. Like Walker is so fit. Walker is like one of the biggest physical freaks of the, in the sport. So I'm optimistic for Frimpong, but I don't know.
Think of Frimpong as a slightly more physical, less accident-prone João Cancelo.
Like, I don't hate it, as long as he's not.
Like his defense doesn't fail him as often.
Yeah.
But he definitely would add more to us offensively. But I think our 3 center backs that would be back there could more than enough replace what might be missing from his play. But again, he's young and could solidify that very well. Yeah.
As long as he doesn't put AirPods in his ears and pout in the back of a meeting room if he doesn't get he doesn't start, I'm all for it.
Jesus Christ.
I love that.
And I like Cancelo. Cancelo and I have very similar. We're like almost the same age. To trauma dump, we both lost our moms at like the same age. So like I have always had like a feeling with Cancelo of just like I know what you're like. We have like almost the same birthday, everything. It's like I feel in a way for him, but like, God, man, figure it out.
Are y'all the same astrological sign too?
Yeah, like we're both Geminis. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really into that whole thing, but yeah.
Doesn't matter if you like it or not, it exists. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess you said it with actually I don't remember who you said.
Cancelo highs price up.
That you said you wanted but who are any of the names that are out there do you want nothing to do with Man City? You hear people mention that name to City and you're like, nope, get him away, stop that, shut it down, boo this man, woman, or non-binary individual.
He, she, they. I don't know if there's anyone that I'm like staunchly against. Especially out of the list of names, the only one that I like, Bruno, I'm more of like, how does he fit? He doesn't feel like he's good enough to be like in the Rodri role, and he doesn't feel defensively strong enough to be in the Rodri role. He does not feel technically good enough to be in like the Bernardo or KDB role. And it's like the same thing with Nunes. And it's one of those things of just like, you don't necessarily seem like a City player. So how is this team going to change to be able to make that fit? So if he signs, it seems like there has to be a lot of tactical changes to accommodate that, but it's not necessarily from like a skill standpoint.
No.
What about y'all?
That. No, Bruno is the one that I am least inspired about.
Yeah,
I try to move on from that conversation as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I don't want to it just seems like another. It seems like another like Calvin Phillips situation. Like honestly, like and I like we saw that once, and I don't need that again.
Yeah.
And he wants it too much, bro. Like, do you see him all like oozing over Pep, bro? Like, I don't want that. Like, he's your boss, not gonna be your best friend. Like, you need to relax, bro. I don't want that out of a player.
Which is why I think I'm like just from that standpoint alone, like I'm in on Paquetá, like because like he's like I'm not talking about anything but the West Ham season right now. So, like, if you want to talk to me about West Ham football, we can talk about West Ham football, but I'm not talking about anything else but West Ham football. Any questions? Like, so, I don't know what that whole gambling thing was about, but like, I mean, I know in the summer transfer window, we were like really hot and heavy for him. So I don't.
Distraction.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
no.
calling.
Way to get that
I'm putting
price
my
down.
tinfoil hat on. Yeah, right. Let him play well, and then they're just like, "Oh well, now the price is higher." And it's just like, "Hey, he was tied to a gambling thing," and they're just like, "Nope, he got out of it. The price is the price." I want to turn to Philip Walter Foden, Mink bred and born, Stockport's own. He had to play under Manchester and football greats, really, in the 7 seasons that he's been on the first team. Coming on for the first time as a first-time player for Yaya Toure, November 2017. Like, that's crazy. Dealing with KDB, leaving eventually as the greatest Manchester City player ever. He will have to deal with Erling Haaland, Roger being a senior member, Ruben Diaz yearns for the camera. Sure, Foden represents Manchester City. The problem is the club has hit a world status. And as you can see, as the current trophy tour, can Phil Foden be, air quotes, the man, the face of the club with all of these other strong international personalities in the club, especially if like Musiala joins? Like, that dude's a star as well. It's gonna be tough for him.
Yeah, I think from a marketing standpoint, I don't know if he'll ever I don't think he'd pass like Holland from a marketing standpoint. Not that that really matters to me, but I think we've already seen this year, and correct me if either of you think I'm wrong. He's basically for the last 4 months been City's best player, at least
Yes. Yes.
he has carried the team at times. I think of the Leipzig group stage game. Like I think of the Brentford game. Like there's so many times where he has just had to the goal against Everton, like where he's had to just pull the team up, and that was always the thing with him. Not I shouldn't say always the thing with him. He hasn't been necessarily asked to do that at times. We saw it in the Champions League run-in in the behind closed door season, like when he was out in the left wing and was like man of the match against Dortmund, man of the match against PSG, like when he basically benched Raheem Sterling. And not in a shade way. I love Raz, but
hey, it happened.
He was a better
I
player.
mean, it was he did.
Yeah.
He did.
I saw your eyes. So I just was like, I was just trying to be
no, because I was like, ooh, that's nice. That's nice. Ooh, I like that. Ooh.
He's like, I'm cutting this right now.
But he, unfortunately for him, and it's the thing everyone talks about, he's so good that he's been asked to play now in essentially 4 different positions the last 4 years. He was a left wing, then he was a false 9, then he was a right wing. Now he's like half right wing, half attacking midfielder, and he's excelling at all of it. And Pep's saying his his best position is like if he's a deep lying playmaker. And it's just like Pep's actively saying that he hasn't even played in the position that Pep thinks he can be the best player in. I was okay with the Pellegrini and Kevin Phillips, but don't bring it to Phil. I'm not hating on Foden at all. Far from it. He's. I remember when. I remember when he came on in the summer game against United. That was the first time I'd ever heard of him, and that's when like Esteemed Company just started the propaganda campaign. Just like from the jump, Steven was on it from day one. This guy's going to be a star. He absolutely can be. He already is showing that he is. We just have to see consistency now. Now it's going to be him.
Edgy.
I like it. I like it.
I mean, it not that like this league is ever on that par, but like it would not fly in MLS. I guarantee you that.
Oh my god, no! I mean, like it wouldn't. Imagine if Sterling did it, it wouldn't fly. Like you know what I mean? Like,
well, that has totally different dynamics behind it.
Yeah. But and I wasn't sure if that's what. Yeah, I mean, and especially in America, I don't think like guns.
Yeah. Like
guns aren't. Yeah. I mean, like Yeah, I agree. I like the celebration, but I do also understand some of the, I guess the privilege he has,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes. And for people who don't know, because some people are just listening, I did the Foden celebration. Okay. I actually want to keep it moving because this is a fun little topic here. I find myself more and more annoyed by Kyle Walker's interviews, not because he's doing the interviews per se. It's more just like who he's doing them with. Annoying media publications are Rio Ferdinand. Like, why? Kyle Walker and how people support him gives a big, I support the art of the artist, but not their views or their actions, which is fair because I do take that opinion with a few artists. But am I being a dinosaur?
Kanye blasting in the background.
You're not supposed to say the quiet part out loud,
Dylan. Am I being a dinosaur, or do I have like an old school mentality, expecting my captain to be seen, not heard? Not even on Kyle Walker. Like, let's just keep it general. Like, what should be the expectation for a captain of the team that you support?
I think that most importantly is the locker room dynamic. That is the most important, and how, like, on the pitch, what the temperament level is, and then the behind the scenes. Not to say that off, like personal life stuff doesn't matter. It obviously matters. This has been the most confusing Kyle Walker season I've ever experienced. It's bizarre. Like like to have what happened last year, where he's like, for anyone that doesn't know, he was like drunk at a bar and like took his dick out, and allegedly, or I don't even know if allegedly, I think it's on video, but regardless, like it looks like that's what happened. Like that was bonkers. And like it almost cost him not his career. That's extreme, but it cost him his spot in the squad. You could argue it cost him starting in the Champions League. It almost caused him to go to Bayern Munich in the summer. He stays. He does the whole "I'm not leaving," Wolf of Wall Street thing, and came back and kind of had a sense of arrogance, almost in a way, of confidence. And you have to be confident to be a professional athlete, because people aren't normal. Like mentally, like we'll never know what it's like to be a professional athlete. Like those aren't normal people. But then the Sun interview and everything else, it's all the personal and the stuff with the mistresses and the potential kids and all that. Like it's a mess. In a way though, like if none of the players care about that, if no one in that locker room cares at all about that, it doesn't matter. I don't like it. I don't love that. Like that's like representative of who the captain is. But if all those players in there are going to listen to him, they voted for him to be the vice captain behind De Bruyne. Like, if he has control of that locker room, if he commands respect, if he is doing the Fernandinho role or the Gundogan role of, I take care of all the families, any issues that are on the team, I've got an arm around the shoulder, and talking it out, that matters more. I don't love all the personal life stuff. I'm not here defending it. I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not advocating for it. I don't practice that in my personal life. Some people aren't great people, but they're good employees.
I mean, that's real. That's real.
Do you ever have like someone at work that you're cool with, and then you find out something in their personal life or something that they've done, and you're like, what? Like, it's like, it's, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's
jarring. It's jarring. It's like fundamentally changes the way that you see them.
Yeah. And then you show up to work and you're just like, your work relationship doesn't really change, but in the back of your mind, you're just like confused. That's kind of, I feel like, what it's like with Kyle Walker. That's my 2 cents. What do you think?
That man, I don't like on I understand what you're saying about like the players voted on him so clearly, and like in a locker room, I'm sure that like that conversation probably has come up. Like they know what the F is, they know what the fuck's going on. Like, like
I mean, half of them still support Mendy. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's And I sorry to bring that up, and we don't have to say anything else other than that. Like, it's just they have a different moral compass and
Yes.
think of things differently, and they personally know them. Like, it's a lot easier for us to criticize these people that we don't know. Yeah, that's all.
Valid.
Not defending many by any means. Not at all.
Yes.
Not at all.
Yeah, of course.
Just want to put that out there. Like, I want to make that abundantly clear.
Yes.
They know but they do know what's going on. Like, and I don't know, like, I think that there's expectations on a captain of any sports team, like in any place in the world, like to represent themselves in a manner that like goes above and beyond, like especially somebody like who is non-white in like in any European sport. Like that's
absolutely
like there's certain things that you just cannot do. Like, and I don't know, like, and I think like, and to your point, like he was vice captain, not captain, and I think like De Bruyne being out, like that really hurt. Like, he was just viewed as the captain, like because De Bruyne
made a bad situation terrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that De Bruyne can stay fit long enough to like be like on the field to be the captain. So then we don't necessarily have to know who the vice, we can know who's on the captaincy board or whatever the fuck they call it.
Yeah. I never knew who the vice captain was until this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like you see the vote come out, and you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah." Like,
and I know like one divide, right? Yeah. It's just like, but I don't think about it. Yeah, that's hilarious. Oh man, wow! All right, this was a fun little conversation. I thought this was a nice little episode. Hey, shout out
appreciate
to
this.
everybody.
This is fun. I love coming on here. It's been a minute.
Yes. Hey, we'll have you back sooner because we're gonna have to continue this conversation because we'll get ever so much closer to 115 charges. Depending on time, I was gonna sneak that in as a little cliffhanger. We get the conversation started. We basically do our middle fingers and be like, oh, and then be like, all right, bye. See you next month.
I await the reaction.
Right.
I'm waiting for the City fan that gets 115 just tattooed on them, like when City's acquitted of all of the charges. Like I have a feeling that a lot of City fans are just gonna like adopt the number 115.
It'll be the new 9320.
Yes, exactly that. Exactly that.
Well, Dylan, please plug yourself. Let listeners, viewers know where they can find you and the things that you do.
So I write for City Xtra. Check out City Xtra. If you haven't heard of it, I'd be a little surprised. But it's one of the biggest city outlets. I'm on Twitter. Twitter username is it's my @_ and then my name DILLON MEHAN Dillon Meehan. I've got a podcast, movie podcast, talked about that. After School Cinema Club, it's with me, an actor and a director. If you care about movies, we try to like all movies. So it's not like, we don't trash like super pretentious movies. We don't trash Marvel movies. We all got different opinions, but we love film. And play EA Sports FC, I guess, but don't be too mad about the ratings. Yeah, that's what I got.
Well, we will be back at it tomorrow. Thursday night lit stream, FanFest Live, 3 most dope guests, 3 completely different fields of football conversations, topics. It's going to be a good time. Bring whatever your favorite snacks and beverages are and hang with us. Then Friday, we have a Breaking Bread match preview series for the Manchester Women's Derby this weekend. And even have, what rating would I have as?
I didn't see it. Wait, what's the?
I'll put it up here.
What rating would I have as a 47-year-old? Hey, technique never dies. The physical stats probably trash. I'm gonna be honest. Physical stats, like that's probably not gonna be too hot. But the technique never dies. Technique never dies. So all the passing, all that's gonna be great. Pace is gonna be rough. Pace is
Oh God.
Love it. And yeah, Saturday watch along for the Manchester Women's Derby, bright and early in America. We will be here. You know the vibes. Shady gang. Shady gang. Shady.